Oh, she has 2 lemons.
Sometimes I work out at home, but it's rare. That's good. Anything is good.
Okay. Let's go ahead and get Craig back up on this and look at patients' feelings, attitudes, and perceptions about chronic disease. We've talked a little bit about their emotional responses. Let's look at this. These are some ways that patients may describe their chronic disease, and there are several different words, and I guess it depends a lot on the patient's orientation and how they view life. But the first one, it can be a burden. Some people describe it as a burden. Some people look at it as a challenge. Some people look at it as an opportunity. Some as a problem. Some as a disaster, and some as depressing. I have put these words up for diabetic patients in a group education session before and asked them to pick which word they would pick. And you're sitting there thinking, why would anybody pick it as an opportunity, or why would they pick it the other way, the disaster or the negative words? You'll be surprised. More people will pick, as many people will pick words that seem to be positive in nature as those that are negative. And here's some of the stuff they will say to me. Like if they pick the word opportunity, what they'll say is, my diagnosis of diabetes was a wake-up call. It was a chance for me to change the way I live my life. And I'm glad I'm alive and don't have complications right now, but I can redo myself. Okay, some people look at it like that. Then you have other people who will say it's depressing and they can't figure out how to move forward, and it's unfair, and they're stuck in the mud with that, and they can't go beyond it. Some people will say it's a burden, and it just drives them crazy because they have to haul things around, finger stick blood sugar check, watch, count carbohydrates, all of this stuff that goes on. And so it begins to be very bothersome, to them. So you'll see a lot of people pick these words. You might, I'm not going to ask you to show hands, but you might think about how you would respond if you had a chronic disease that really wasn't going to go away. Which of those things would you use to pick it? It's kind of hard to know now because when life is a certain way, it's hard to imagine an unending big bad thing in front of you. But you might spend some time thinking about how you respond to that, because it will tell you something about your orientation to events and your ability to manage or not. It's somewhat self-defining. However, no matter what you pick, it does not mean that you stay on that word all the time, because a lot of people actually grow, evolve, and change their understanding of what has happened and what they can do, and will become somebody different. And I've taken care of a lot of people who change from seemingly not caring and blowing everything off to actually doing some stuff and making progress and doing very well. So part of the provider input helps determine how patients view things. Now, for example, like you're saying, Sammy, if they are without information, then they may look at it as a burden or a disaster. But if they have information and they know things they can do that make a difference and they understand it, then they begin to look at it maybe as an opportunity. So it's something different. Okay, problem solving. You have to teach your patients how to solve problems. We always think that's our job, and it is to an extent. And your job is to figure out what problems are, to help figure out what problems are, but to an even larger extent, patients with chronic disease have to figure out what the problems are, and they have to learn how to solve those problems. Okay, just problem solving in general. There are many problems to address. As you use diabetes as an example here, you will begin to figure out as you get deeper into treatment all the things that people have to deal with that could be a problem, and there's quite a few. Teaching patients how to problem solve is the part of self-care education that must be part of the therapeutic relationship. If you hold the burden of determining the problem and solving the problem, and the patient's just out there to receive from you, that's not a good practitioner. I'll just call it what it is. It's not a good practitioner. You have to have the person define, and you have to have the person offer the ways to solve that problem, and they have to understand it's a problem. That's a different orientation than what you may see sometimes. Patients with diabetes must learn how to solve many problems So let's look at that. Okay, daily problems that must be dealt with, and bullet point 2 is the one I wanted to look at. What are some of the things they have to decide? They have to decide about physical activity of the day. How much? Too much, not enough? What will that do to my diabetes? They have to decide about eating constantly. You know, the limit squares on the front row. That's, for a diabetic person, that could be a problem. Just sitting here thinking about it. If their blood sugar's a little bit low, they might want to get, want to get some of that, and it feels good. And they get a second one, they get a third one, and they get a fourth one. Or they eat a little sliver of cake late at night because that little voice in the refrigerator is calling me, and I eat that little sliver, and then before you know it, that sliver got to be that big. Okay? And I'm pretty much the mindset that any cake that's sitting there, the serving size is what's left. So you gotta be careful about some of this stuff. Okay, other one is taking medications. Look at the number of medications the Good Shepherd people have. I mean, these people don't even have that many resources. Think about all the pills and injections and stuff that people could have. Could you keep up with all that? It's probably an activity we ought to do. We probably ought to give everybody, sugar pills of different colors and put you on a chronic regimen and see how well you can keep track of that stuff over time. Because you will be surprised. It is not easy to do. And we just keep loading stuff up on people. Oh, now that'll fix them. It's like, yeah, it really did. Okay, monitoring blood sugar, that's another one. Sticking fingers. If patients are asked to address all the problems at once, it'll be overwhelming. And some of y'all talked about that overwhelming nature that you felt some of the patients had when everybody's coming at them. It's a lot of stuff. So it's very important to start with one area the patient feels is a challenge, one that they're ready to tackle. Sometimes we like to decide what the battlefront is, and that's okay, because sometimes we do need to decide it. There's things that will get them right now if we don't fix it. But more often than not, there's a lot of things. Food issues, monitoring issues, medication compliance issues, activity issues, relationship issues that create stress. All of this is on the table. And if you're trying to be obsessive, compulsive, and perfect, and have a plan to fix all the problems you can identify, that will probably leave out of there just completely, clouded. So it's always better to pick out a thing or two that you can narrow down that will make a difference in the immediate future, and it's preferable if it's one that they can call. Okay, if they can call it, that's good. Okay, here's the steps. There's 4 steps in this. First is identify the problem. Have the patient describe the problem. Don't you describe the problem. Have them say, well, I'm really having a problem with my medicines. Well, tell me exactly what the problem is. You all know from taking med histories right now at Good Shepherd that what you think you got when you left the room and what people ask you, what they ask you in detail about that regimen, you realize how much you have not gotten, and then you go back, they tell you something else. And then you feel like a fool because I went in there and asked them and they said this, and you went in there and asked them this way and they said that, and I feel dumb. Don't even go there. Okay, that's just the way it is. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that you're just students. They know you're a student. They know you're a learner, so they don't really take you serious all the time. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But if you're younger looking, they're older looking, me, I got a daughter your age, I got somebody older, you can't know anything. This is the way people are. This is the way you'll be. It's just the way it is. And then somebody will go in there old enough, then they'll just kind of open up and you'll go, well, what's wrong with me? Nothing. It's just the way it is. It gets better. The more you know, the more you're aware of how they're thinking, the better you're going to get in there with them. But you want them to describe the problem. Getting them to be specific is more helpful than not. I think you all saw that when you aren't specific in patient care, you really can't make a good plan. And the more detailed and specific about certain aspects of care you can be with that patient, the more you can get a solution that's going to work. So here's some examples. I can't remember to take my medicines. Okay, well that's too vague. I remember to take my medicine in the morning, but I can't remember to take my medicine before supper. Okay, that's much more specific. Now you can kind of work with that. So you have to ask enough questions of a person to get it down to exactly what is wrong for you. That's step one. Define the problem as specific and detailed as you can get them to be. And they have to do it. You have to get them to tell you the details. Number two, think of possible solutions. Now, we think of solutions. Well, why don't you put your pill by your bedside so you won't forget to take it? Why don't you do so and so? Put your insulin syringe that you're using on the kitchen table, blah, 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 those types of things. That's fine, but it's better if you can get them to brainstorm. How do you think, if they tell you they can't take medicines at night, what do you think would make a difference for you? Let's talk about it. What do you think it could be? How could you remember? What would make you remember? Sometimes they got a watch they can program, sometimes they don't. Sometimes there's people in the house that you can enlist to be part of the process. But you want them to brainstorm. Offer solutions or suggestions on how to solve the problem only if they cannot. Okay? Takes more time because you can quickly pop off things to do, but it's better if they have to figure it out. Okay? 3, identify thoughts and attitudes that come with the problem. This is the hard part to me, really. Define the problem, propose solutions, but every time something's a problem, without doubt, they have attitudes and beliefs around it that if you don't understand what they are, it's hard to get out of the problem. Here's what I mean by detail. Ask the patient to recall the thoughts or attitudes they experienced when the problem happened before and what happened, when it's happened before, and then what happened when they let the problem go forward. Ask the patients to practice more positive thoughts. It doesn't come naturally for some people. The patients have to make themselves do it. But you can teach people to be more positive in what they do as a learned behavior. Don't just go there a pessimist. Make them be positive about remembering or what they can do. Ask patients to focus on the progress they've made, even if it's small. Okay? Again, incrementalism is the most important thing. So whatever they can communicate they've done different and better, even if it isn't perfect, you have to praise that and then try to scrap up a little bit more. You just kind of keep pulling it together with them. Help patients realize that negative thoughts may discourage them from trying to cope with diabetes problems in the future and lead to negative actions. People are self-defeating by nature, and you may know this for yourself. If there's ever something that you have to do and you can't remember to do it, you kind of get frustrated, and so you think, well, I'm never going to be good at this, I can't do it, so you kind of quit. People with chronic disease do the same thing, and so they can get kind of negative about it. Oh, I never have a good blood pressure, my blood sugar's always bad. I can't ever get my cholesterol down, but I forget my medicine half the time, and I'm just a failure, I can't do it. I'm not meant to be. My family dies young, so I'm just going to probably die young too. They all start just kind of gravitating to the low end of things. And it's like, now why are you saying that? Now come on. What do you want? You have to kind of go back to what they want and then pull it out again. So you have to help them identify thoughts and attitudes that come with that problem and help them overcome it. And then finally, choose a solution. Try it and see how it works. You have to try. And you have to also know they will mess up when they try. We mess up, they mess up. If they come back and they haven't done the behavior that they said they want to do to improve a behavior, don't belittle them. Don't get upset. Don't say, well, why do you come back to the visit if you're not going to do what we asked you to do? That's that imperial, I've told you what to do routine, and you didn't do it, so you deserve my irritation, so there you go. You're messing up my stats on outcomes. It's just that kind of thinking, but you can't go there. It's natural, but you can't go there. You have to become unnatural. You have to view you have to view things that are failures as things that don't work. Okay, so we tried that, thought that was going to work, it didn't work. And I'll even analyze with them why things don't work. And then what do you think we might try? What would make it better? So we just keep working through stuff that works and doesn't work. And with chronic disease, and diabetes is classic, you have to try things. Let's try insulin here. Let's try insulin there. Let's try eating food here. Let's try eating food there. Let's try activity this time of day, maybe that time of day. Let's just keep moving things around until something lands for that person. Okay, keep trying. Thomas Edison, our greatest weakness lies in giving up. The most certain way to succeed is always to try just one more time. I like this. It's light bulb in bed. It's kind of weird. A weird picture, but it's a good picture. Like, I don't know what it means. It's kind of abstract, but it kind of works. Okay, so you keep trying to figure out a way to solve the problem. All right. Motivation, cost, and benefits. Let's talk about that motivation just a little bit. Here's questions we ask ourselves about motivation. What are the hassles involved in doing something different? What do I have to do to make this change? What will happen if I don't make this change? Like, trying to figure out if it's that big of a deal. What will I get in exchange for the hassle? If I take my medicine like you said, and I check my blood sugar like you said, what am I going to get for it? And do I think it's worth it? That's why it's better if they define the problem, so that when you kind of get these solutions, it's kind of worth it for them. Okay, so what does motivation come down to? And this is true for all people, all things, not just managing chronic disease. Motivation is what drives you from the inside to do the things you do. Anytime you make a decision to do something, you're weighing out pros and cons. What I have to do, what do I get? What's the pro, what's the con? What's the hassle, what's the reward? You always put it together. Is it worth studying this lecture for 2 questions, or do I throw it out when I'm studying? I mean, but when you've got all this stuff stacked up, and you got a test coming, and it would take me probably 2 hours to really get all this stuff down, but I know there's 2 questions. Has that not happened to anybody here? Happened to me. I did. Okay, I'll tell you the one I've used this example before. I remember the end of our clinical med stuff. I think we're in OBGYN surgery, something like that, in the medical school at San Antonio. And I was just so sick and tired of studying. I was just sick and tired of studying. I mean, just sick of it. Just sick of all the stuff. They just give you handouts and tell you stuff and give you stuff and then give you these old big tests. Like, I'm sick of it. And by then, I don't know how many years down the tube I was. By then, 7 years of being in school or something like that. And so on that last exam, I thought, I'm not going to study this stuff. I'm just not. I'm going to pick out 4 or 5 lectures I think are dumb. And I don't want to put a lot of energy into them. I'm just going to pick them up and move them out. And one of them was adnexal masses in OBGYN, because I've never been messed with that. I'm not doing obstetrics gynecology. I'm not going to be worried about masses and tumors anyway, so I'm just not going to worry about it. So I just picked them up, threw them out. I don't think I missed anything on that one, but I missed some other stuff. Are you going to say?
No, I'm not saying anything.
But I did. I had really not done that before in life. Is kind of debulk my notes before I studied. And when I did, I felt so light and happy and in charge. Of course, I did miss more questions than I would have missed, but I was kind of dogging it. But anyway, we all make those choices. Balancing pros and cons is a big part of motivation to do or not do something. That there's cost, and then there's benefits. You want to put in 2 hours, get 2 more questions, make a better grade. Do you have to have 98 instead of 96? I thought, well, probably not. Okay, I'll let that go. But anyway, that's what patients are doing with all the things that we give them, is they're balancing it out. Okay, relapse prevention. This is, when you're dealing with patients coping with chronic disease, don't even think that you're going to have the perfect patient. Don't even expect them to do everything right all the time. Expect that they're going to mess up. Expect that they're going to fall off the wagon in some way, and you will not be mad when that happens. Not the first time, or the second, third. But you have to say that to yourself, because if you're happy only when they've done everything you've said, you're going to have a miserable, accursed life in chronic care, just here and here first, or maybe for the 10th time. So you have to have a much more realistic expectation about what people can do and what they do, what they actually do. Relapse is going to happen. First statement in bold, I put it in the bigger font than everything else, because you just have to understand this and internalize it. No one can manage disease X perfectly all the time. Nobody. I've had some I thought were pretty close. They were just obsessive compulsive people. It was probably another diagnosis, that they had. But no one can manage perfect all the time. There will be temporary lapses, day or two where you don't take the medicines right, don't eat right, but they can become full-blown if patients ignore their care for a long period of time. So that's the problem with lemon squares on the front row, is if you've been really good and you haven't eaten them, and then all of a sudden you eat one, and then that's your cocaine, and then you kind of go back and forth. Before you know it, it's like, crap, my blood sugar's 350, and you just feel so terrible that you did it. But it was kind of good while you were doing it. Kind of bad that you did it. Okay, it's the relapses that go more than a few days that you have to worry about when you deal with chronic disease with the patient. Okay, so how do we do this? Here's some questions you ask your people. Describe situations that cause you to slip up with your diabetes self-care. Be just straight up front. What messes you up? What are your thoughts when you don't follow through with your diabetes plan? Guilt. I'm worthless. I'm not going to live long anyway. Doesn't matter. Since I've decided I'm not going to live long, it doesn't matter. I might as well have good food while I'm waiting to be dead. And they do. They really do. There's lots of justification of behavior and rationalization. And it's just very human to do that. I'm going to eat some potato chips. And then potato chips are like cake. The serving size is the bag. It's like peanuts. If you open a jar, can of peanuts, serving size is the can. Who eats a crunchy peanut with all that salt and just has a palm? Serving sauce is, they're giving the serving sauce a palm of almonds. It's a fistful of almonds. I know what they say. They even package them up in these little baggies, these little bitty little serving size of almonds. Shoot, just get 5 of them. So I always feel like it's a good effort, but the criminal non-compliant will find a way to do that. Can you think of things that trigger lapse in self-care? Okay, so ask patients about things. Okay, you just kind of know what their world is. And don't ask them like a judge. This is the thing that people hate. Well, what kinds of things mess you up around the house? We can see that you're having problems. What triggers this? What triggers that? It's kind of like, it's kind of like, you're sitting there thinking, when I get out here, I'm never going to see you again, drop dead, you SOB. They're out there just thinking about that, so you might as well kind of know that. So it doesn't do any good to sit there with the judge routine on people with chronic disease. Be open to what they are. Talk about, well, how'd you feel about that? Is that a good thing? What do you think about that? Oh, I know I'm doing bad mistakes. Okay, but if you don't judge them, they're with you. If you beat them up, you lost and they lost. And you might as well just end the visit, just wasting time. Okay, so how do you prevent relapses? And here's using diabetes as an example. It's important to help people think ahead. Think ahead. They're navigating life with a chronic disease. Stuff is coming. Cake over here, peanuts over there. Somebody wants to go out drinking. Somebody's got a 6-pack. Somebody's doing so-and-so. Okay, all this stuff is out there. Sounds good to me. Sound good to them. So you have to think ahead and anticipate what might occur that could threaten their diabetes self-care. Okay, think ahead, figure out what the problems are. Patients should try to avoid the known triggers that can lead to a relapse. So we all have trigger things. If you do this, you get that. If you do this, you get that. And here's some of the triggers that can happen. And some of these are kind of hard to manage. Situations that cause anxiety, stress, loneliness, boredom, or anger. What do some people do when they get stressed? Eat. What do some people do when somebody's been mean to them or they're lonesome? They go find friends with food. Just do that, or go eat alone. Get angry and eat something. I'm mad. I'm tired of all this stuff. I'm just going to go and have myself a big old piece of cake. Okay, so there's a price. Pleasurable feelings such as during a celebration, I'm happy. Surely I can be happy with everybody for a while, so I'm just going to go to the wedding. I'm going to go to the wedding and eat what I want to eat. I'm not going to worry about what anybody says. Okay, so you do. You go on the cruise, eat all the food, gain 10 pounds, 5 to 10. It doesn't take a lot to get 5 or 10. Social pressure, oh, you can just have one. come on, have fun. You've been working at this stuff for months. You don't ever have any fun. Come on, have some fun. If you die, you know, if you live for 10 years and you didn't do anything, who wants to live like that? I'd rather live 5 years and have fun and eat good stuff and do good stuff. Well, have y'all heard that before? Yeah, it's kind of like, I want to have fun. A relationship conflict. Boyfriend throws you over. Girlfriend throws you over. Life is bad. I'm just going to eat something and I don't care if I live a long time or not. Screw this. Okay? People do that. People, places, and things can be a trigger to give up plans. So a lot of stuff is out there. All right. Help patients remember positive experiences when they were successful in not responding to a trigger. You have to figure out what the triggers are. In the African American community, church dinners, deadly. Weddings, deadly. And this time of year, I always knew that, this time of year, family reunions, that could be around 4th of July, deadly holiday. Christmas, deadly. Diabetes, I used to tell people in October, if you can go from Thanksgiving to New Year's and gain 5 pounds, I won't say a word. I'll be happy with you because we know it's coming. And then sometimes that would work and sometimes they wouldn't keep their appointment in January because they went over, so they don't want to see you because they don't want to know. They don't want you to know. And I always took a, missing appointment. Well, I know what happened to you. But, okay, if you want to wait 4 more weeks and get your weight down, that'll be fine. Okay, but it's working. You want to help them remember positive experiences when they were successful and not respond to triggers. Help patients plan ahead for situations that might threaten their plan. That is, they should have a plan B ready just in case. Here's an example. I had a lady, she loved her church. And they had big Sunday dinners. I mean, this big things. In the African American community, it's very culturally appropriate to eat the foods, all the foods. If you're the pastor, it's even worse because if you don't eat every lady's cake, then that is like an affront. So it's really, I had a pastor one time, he was just an instant requiring preacher on Sunday that would be in church for 3 and 4 hours. It would be that long, long days. But there are those who fix foods and they feel like they have to eat, and a lot of people in the African American community know that they have diabetes, so it's kind of knowledge out there, but still they want to eat. So not eating is not acceptable. So you have to talk about how to eat. So we know that the problem of food is coming because you're going to be there. So what I would tell them is, tell them, Miss Smith, you make the best peach cobbler in Oklahoma City. And I was like, I'll eat it if you don't want it. But you make the best peach cobbler. I'm only going to be able to take a spoonful over here to see how good you cooked it this time, because I know how good I would love to eat that whole pan. But if I get in trouble, I'm going to have to it's going to mess up my diabetes, but I really want to taste what you have done. Then you cut a boundary out. I'm going to have a little bit, and that meets the social requirement, but it gets them out of the hole from this big, 2 spoonfuls of stuff thrown down there. And they can work with that, and just like get them in and get them out, get out of there without blowing it up. So there's things like that. There's some people, some relationship problems. Miss So-and-so makes me mad every time I see her, and I always just go home and just eat. You got to avoid her. You have to serve that person. And if it's somebody that there are people in relationships that are not good for you. Now y'all know that, right? They just make you mad every time. They upset you, they stress you out, they are bad influences, they do all kinds of things. But they're kind of seductive in other ways. There's something good, something about being on the danger side. You have to really think about them and think about what you do. Usually you've messed up 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20 times. You know the way it goes. I go here, we get that, you say that, I do this, and I'm there. Saturday morning, okay? So you just have to know your cues, and you have to think about what do you say, what do you do, where do you go, how do you put limits on things. If you don't want to be someplace all night because you need to go to bed, then you have to have a plan, a phone call. Fix it, okay? But you learn the messes, and then you have to find ways to get out of them. Okay, getting over relapse. Most important thing, teach patients to practice forgiveness. Because when people mess up, they just get all upset, and when they get upset they've messed up, they might just say, I've thrown the bag, I bagged it. You don't want to do that. So harsh judgment and feelings of guilt often lead to even more negative actions, and people can be harder judges than their healthcare provider can be. Help patients try to figure out what may have triggered the relapse. Encourage patients to practice positive self-talk. Concentrate on what they learned from the lapse. Even if you've messed up, what did you learn? What happened again? And think how to get out of that or to avoid it. Encourage patients to focus their energy on getting back on track and use their support network. Support network, good little thing to look at. Ask your patients, who can you call on to help when you slipped up? Who can help you get back in the right frame of mind to keep going? Okay, because we're going to be moving to that. Okay, the whole thing about relapse is you have to analyze behavior and consequences and then have plans to avoid it. It's also important to know that individuals by themselves very often cannot pull it off. That when you get in the undertow of some relationship or the wrong place, you may not be able to get out of it without just going the wrong road. Because when you're with person A, we always do this. If I don't do that, they'll think this. It's going to mess up our relationship. I like the relationship, but I don't like that. But I'm going to keep the relationship, so I'm going to do this. And you just kind of get sucked into it. So you have to have people who help you minimize the damage of those things when they come along. And it's usually another person. It's very difficult alone to manage a chronic disease. It's just almost impossible. There has to be this network. And most of the people I saw, that most of them had somebody they could call. If they're younger, it could be a parent. If it's an older person, it might be a sister or somebody in their community. But usually people had somebody. Always felt most uneasy for people who had no one, because you would ask them, if you're in trouble, if you're sick, if you feel like you're about to faint, who would you call? Where would you get help from? And if they can't tell me a name, they're really at risk. And I would say, let's think, who could it be? You have to have a person. But there's some folks who have nobody, and which is sad. Okay, get the support you need. Here's questions you can ask people who have chronic disease about networks. Describe the kind of support from others that will help you with your diabetes self-care, asthma self-care. Describe the things other people, family, friends, co-workers do to help or hinder your efforts to take care of your whatever. And how does diabetes affect your relationships with family and friends? Just to kind of figure out what the network is doing to help or hurt. So I picked a picture with a lot of people in it because it usually takes a lot of people to do well. Let's look at family and friends. Okay. Family dynamics in chronic disease are interesting, complicated, sometimes positive, sometimes negative. Okay. Diabetes affects the whole family or those the patient with diabetes lives with. So it could be the family or whoever you live with. When you have diabetes, one of the biggest things you're going to be dealing with is what you eat, how much, and how often. What if you're living in a low-income family and you can't afford to buy your food and their food? That happens all the time. It's my food and their food. And even if you did buy your food and try to put it over here, and they bought their food and you put it over there, you're exposed to their food over there, and it's very difficult to get away from it. You got fried chicken, potato chips, French fries over here, and then you have the lean chicken breast. And it's hard to mix it. And if you are the female head of the household who prepares the food, now you got a real dilemma. Fix for you, fix for them. And if you have limited resources and income, it's hard to do that well. So that becomes a real problem, long term for those folks. But also monitoring, doctor's visits, you're taking insulin, they're afraid you're going to black out on them. So they're looking at you kind of funny. So it changes things. Close relationships do affect a person's self-care. So if close relationships are positive, it has a positive influence on chronic care. If close relationships are negative, it may have a negative effect on self-care. Every family or group of people is different, and identifying the family's feelings about the disease is important. And I will tell you, it's interesting, when I talk to patients, it may be the one thing that's not talked about. It's kind of there, but it's kind of not talked about, and it never has words put to it. The most common emotion is fear, and I don't think that that's necessarily what you would think the family would think. If you have the chronic disease, and the family's emotion is fear. And it's more, and it depends on which family member has it. Let's say the father is the money maker and he's got cardiac heart disease and is at risk of losing a job or having a sudden heart attack. Everybody else is wondering what's going to happen to us if you're dead. Or if the mother who has young children around has new onset diabetes, taking insulin, she's had hypoglycemic reactions a time or two where she blacks out. And your child, you're always sitting there wondering when mama's going to go down and what will happen to me? You know, what will happen to me if she's not here? So those things up underneath are fear, and that's common, the most common. Family and friends may have unrealistic expectations. The son can be pushy and controlling. I've asked that question to people all the time who have diabetes. Is there anybody who just irritates you because you have diabetes? Almost always they will name people who are on top of them. You eat too much. You eat bad. You've got diabetes, you should be doing this. And I'll be in the room when they're sitting there with a spouse or a sibling, and they're saying, well, you know, you're big as a house, you gained 300 pounds, and no wonder you have diabetes, and they're sitting at 280. It's kind of like, I wouldn't be talking, you know? So, but it's just so snipey, and it's like, okay. So I'm just sitting there just kind of watching. Or a younger, you know, a 50-year-old daughter will take her mother who's 75 to the doctor's appointment, and you just see all this carrying on, just fighting. Well, you know, if you don't take care of yourself, I'm going to have to do this. Then it affects them. They have to do something. Then you're invading their space. And they get all upset with that. So it's kind of interesting to watch the people. Controlling people may create power struggles with the one who has diabetes, and that you see fairly often. Why are people controlling? Because they think they're responsible. That's one reason. That's the altruistic reason. They feel responsible, so they want you to do certain things. But I think the one that's probably even more common than that is because if you don't act right, it may affect my life in a negative way, and I'll have to take it to the ER, or we'll have to spend our extra money on this. Or we may lose, you know, you may lose your job, and then I'm gonna have to figure out something else. So a lot of it has to do with kind of a selfish orientation. It's not just, I feel responsible for what happens to you. It might also be, if you don't do right, it's gonna have a negative impact on my life, and I don't want that. So you can see those things. Patients should reassure their family and others that their choices are their own, and that the family members, are not responsible. Now that almost sounds too healthy, you know, I'm making my own choices. But the truth is they do make their choices, and family members sometimes get too pushy, so they have to make it real clear. Patients should help people understand what they need and what they don't need. Those are important things also. And I don't see patients doing it anywhere nearly as often as they need to. Okay, I'm thinking about doing a small break here so we kind of finish our last little break. Y'all need to move around. Lots of content coming. Any reflections on what's been said so far? Y'all know any family dynamics that you think are not healthy in chronic disease? Maybe?
I was just going to say for my family, there was some tension, like as my grandma progressed in her disease, like my cousins wouldn't go see her because it made them sad, and like, because she was so sick, but at the same time, like the other family needed that support. So it was an interesting dynamic, because my grandpa was still well, he could see who came, you know, so it was like, they couldn't get over themselves.
And you will see that.
Yeah.
Family dynamics are so complicated. Sometimes you think you're seeing what it is, but you know, it's hard to know all of what's played out. Any other notions, any other comments about family dynamics?
I have an aunt that has Lyme disease, but she's also very anti-medicine. So it's really difficult when she'll like miss family events because she doesn't feel well, and I don't think she works anymore. She was a baker. But it's definitely interesting to have her like try to, she'll ask me sometimes about like using essential oils and stuff like that. It's like, you have Lyme disease.
Yeah, it's like,
Like,
why don't you just take the treatment?
But it's always kind of been weird. She's always kind of been distant from the family because of that. And I'm sure that that goes with the exhaustion and just having to know that she isn't going to get cured from that. But it's interesting.
You know, we're talking about healthy coping. This topic was healthy coping with chronic disease. There is also unhealthy coping or unhealthy management with chronic disease. And there are some people who like to be sick. And we'll talk about that in the psychology, but there are some people who like to be sick because it gives them some space, gives them some operating room, backs people off. And I've seen them swoon or you know, my diabetes is in trouble. And Dr. Britt, will you write a note so my husband knows I can't do this? And they're just write me a letter so I won't have to go looking for a job. You know, all this stuff is like, okay, you know, talk to me about why we need to do this. I won't do stuff that's like that because that's very manipulative. But there's some people who like to be sick, and they get sick and sicker on purpose. Until sometimes they play Russian roulette with, they're not taking this and not taking that, so they can be sick just a certain amount, and they may mess up one day. And sometimes they do mess up. So there's some manipulation that goes on too. But we're talking about healthy. We're talking about people who won't be healthy. We're talking about healthy coping. But there is some unhealthy coping too. And multiple gyrations. Anything else y'all want to share about that? Do y'all want to do a little break, or we just blitz out of here and get you out of here way before 4:30? Because I can get you done by then. Way before. Get out? Okay. Okay, we can do that. All right. Yep, you need to go. Just okay, teach questions, ask support. It's important to teach people how to ask questions because I find that people don't often know how to do it. And a lot of family conflict comes about simply because people don't know how to manage communications among people. First step is using I statements, and y'all may have had this somewhere in communications, maybe not. But the first step is to teach a patient to use an I statement. Because I statements indicate that that person is taking responsibility for what's being said. I am doing this. I am not doing this. You statements put people on the defensive. And when people are talking about you, they're talking about you, and then you feel like you're under the gun. Here's two examples with diabetes. I feel annoyed when you say that I shouldn't eat this or that. Okay? That's saying that's how I feel. I'm not saying anything about you, just saying I feel this way when you do that. That's fair. The other one is more attacking or against. You make me annoyed when you tell me I shouldn't eat this. You, it's your problem. I'm identifying you as a problem. Okay, so the I statement is better. I feel when you X, as opposed to you make me. I've said this before, and y'all may not agree with me, but it is true, psychologically it's true. You can't make me do anything. You can't make me feel any way. You can't make me go anywhere. You don't have anything to do with what goes on in here or in here. Not really. It's what you choose to do with the outside noise coming in. How do you want to process that? How do you want to feel about that? And you actually have more control than you think. Some of it's so learned and so automatic that it's like, well, you made me mad. No, you choose to stay around him and listen to that crap and be mad about it. And you can choose. There is absolutely a fact that you choose how you're going to respond to people emotionally. From the second it comes in, there's a micro-processing about how you're going to handle stuff. If I know somebody says irritating things, I can just sit there and go, well, so-and-so's going to say a bunch of irritating things, so I'll sit there and I hear it, and it's already kind of come into the filter of irritating, and I'll decide, no, I'm not going to be irritated by that. That makes them more than 50 times mad, but I'm not trying to do it for that reason either. And if they really made me mad, I would probably just avoid them altogether. There's no need to keep being around folks like that. But you do have an ability to control your interior environment. Okay. Y'all want to disagree with that? You know, just because I know a lot of people will say, no, I don't have any control, you made me mad. No, you chose to be mad at what they did or said. Okay, teaching patients to ask for support. Acknowledge family's concern. You have to acknowledge concern. And how do you do that? People close to patients usually have patients' best interests at heart. Acknowledging the family's concern helps them feel valued. Even if they don't have your best interest at heart, you still changes the dynamics when you can acknowledge what they have said and in the best possible light. Acknowledging a family member's concerns before an I statement often softens the sense that you are criticizing. So see how this is. I know you care about me when you say I shouldn't eat this or that, but I feel annoyed when you do that. Now, if you just say I feel annoyed when you tell me what to eat or not eat, that could go into an argument. It's still owning it. I feel annoyed when you do that. That's a true statement. Or I'm choosing to be annoyed when you do that. On the other hand, I know you're concerned about me. That way they know you've heard what they're saying if they're really legitimately concerned, but then you still say what doesn't help you, what doesn't work for you. Then step 3, say what you need. Very often people don't say what they need. It's almost like they think you know what they need, but unless you say it, they really don't know what you need the way you need it. So be specific in what you want people to do differently. So here's one that uses I's and acknowledges. I know you care about me when you say I shouldn't eat this or that. Acknowledging, softening the blow of criticism, but I feel annoyed when you do that. I'm owning responsibility for choosing to feel that way. It would help me a lot more, this is what you need, if you just comment when you think I'm doing something good for myself. Okay, so that's a little bit different kind of an interplay. Another place where patients need coaching is how to go to a healthcare provider. You can actually teach them how to be a better patient for you and for themselves if you can teach them how to do this. So here's what, before a visit with their healthcare providers, patients should write down questions they want answered. They get confused and dazzled by all of what goes on. They may forget and go home and say, I've never asked them about blah, and they're frustrated. Let their provider know up front what they need to know during the visit. Okay, I really need some help with this. That's why I like to ask them, is there anything major going on that you just absolutely have to get addressed today before we leave? And I want to know that at the beginning, because I'll file that here. It may be that 3 things are crashing and burning and have to be dealt with, but I still want that one dealt with in some capacity before they go out, so they can say, and this is how they will rate you, you know, my PA always asks me, I always feel like they're paying attention to me. When you remember, when you ask them what they need, and you respond to it in some way, they're going to rate you as a good provider because you're interested and you're responding to them. If you always just say what you want them to do that you think they need to do without asking the other, then you get lower scores. And you're going to need good scores because that's the way the healthcare world runs today, is there's ratings, report cards, press gaining scores, all that stuff that's out there. Bring blood sugar records and medications. Tell people to bring their stuff. How hard was it for y'all to get a medication history when people did not bring their stuff with them? Through a foreign language, no less. You can't identify what it is. You can't even really describe it. When they're all generic, you don't even know what color it is. I mean, I'm a pharmacist, I can even tell you. If it's not branded, it can be anything, all colors, it's all possibilities. If they don't bring what they've got, it's hard to know. So teach them to bring stuff back. Tell patients should ask for explanations they don't understand. Do you understand everything I've said? It's okay, I use some big words sometimes, I'm sorry. Tell me what I have said that doesn't make sense to you. That's lateralizing again. I'm talking with you. I need you to talk back with me. And then finally, teach the patients that they should let their provider know when they're having a hard time sticking with their diabetes self-care plan, where you have problems. This is one of the more important slides in the whole stack. Patients should let their providers know goals that they have set for themselves. What do they want? I want to lose this much weight. I want to get my blood sugar at this level. But patients, you teach patients that they should remember that they have the diabetes. You have it. It's your issue. And their provider is their teacher, their coach, and their guide. I actually use those words for patients. I'm not you. I don't have the problems you have, but I'm certainly here to help in every kind of a way. I will teach you, I will coach you, I will guide you, I will encourage you, but in the end, I am not you. but I want good things for you. So just tell them that's your role. And you have to know that's your role too. Sometimes healthcare providers don't see themselves as coach, teachers, or guides. They see themselves as the provider. If you do what I say, you'll be better. Okay, that is not going to work. That is not ever really going to work. You have to know what people need to do. You have to know that, but you have to help them own it and choose and do and encourage and pep up. It's their idea. You have to help them understand that it's their life and that you're not there all the time. And if you can do that, surprisingly enough, they will want to stay with you more because they know that you believe that they can do things, that they themselves have value, that they themselves have ability, that they themselves can decide and choose, and that they have somebody who's their advocate all the time. That is what people want with chronic disease. Okay, so that's a big one. Stress management, we'll just look at these quickly. This is not too difficult. You need to ask people about stress so you can get a handle on it. They aren't ordinarily going to tell you everything. You can sense it by how they're talking to you, but sometimes you won't know. What situations in your life currently cause you a lot of stress? In what ways does your diabetes self-care change when you feel stressed, depressed, or upset? You just ask it, and I think they'll be okay. You might even say, you seem upset today, you seem a little bit different today than when I saw you last time. Is anything else happening at home that is bothering you? And then that way, they can put it on the table, and then you'll know. Stressors are situations or events that cause people to have an emotional or physical response. Negative stressors are conflict, money, death in the family, those types of things. Positive stressors could be welcoming a new baby, planning a family reunion. They're fun. You kind of want that, but there's a lot of stuff that goes on the other side of it too. Stress is emotional or physical response to stressors. I said this earlier, but just to bring it back to this particular section on stress, during stress, body releases catecholamines and cortisol, and they may have detrimental effects on many chronic diseases, including high blood pressure, coronary artery disease, and diabetes. If patients experience stress and don't take some kind of action to deal with it, physical problems can result. Okay. Some physical symptoms of unrelieved stress, and you see this quite often in the Good Shepherd Clinic. A lot of what's out there, often you have to always filter it through the screen of, is this stress, is this somatization, or is this disease, real disease. And some of y'all have had patients where I wonder if it's somatic as opposed to really disease. Headache caused by tensing muscles in the neck, forehead, and shoulders. Why are they tensing their headache? What is this? Family brutality, loss of job, something. Trouble sleeping, fatigue, high blood pressure, nervousness, sweating, hair loss, and ulcers. All of those things can be signs of stress. My mother had the hair loss thing when she planned my sister's wedding and did this big, fantastic thing, and it was about a 6-month unfolding. And when she got done, she had a post-traumatic. She lost some of her hair. It thinned out. She didn't go bald or anything, but she just would be combing her hair out. And it would come out. She went to the dermatologist, and he said, "It's just stress. It'll all come back." And it was like she stayed together until she didn't have to be together, and then her hair came out. And you'll see that. Emotional symptoms of unrelieved stress, anxiety, anger. When people are barking and snapping, think stress, anxiety, depression, irritability, frustration, overreaction to everyday problems, memory problems, and trouble concentrating. Of course, you have memory and trouble concentrating when you have high blood sugars if you're a diabetic, so there's a lot of little elements to tease through. Managing stress involves either reducing the stressors or reducing the stress response. Okay, responses to stress may be changed if a patient learns skills and gets the support they need. Okay, it's important to take inventory of life stressors. We talked about that, major life events, retirement, job change, death, that's a big stressor. Chronic stressors, demands of job, family, finances, being at school. Self-management related stressors, keeping up with self-care, feeling deprived of foods, not meeting treatment goals, etc. And you have to be aware of the counterproductive ways that people deal with stress: smoking, drugs, alcohol, overeating, etc. Escapism, people just check out. Ways to manage stress, engage in regular physical activity. And your generation mostly knows this and does this much better than the older generation, I think. Just as a general statement. Eating healthfully, getting enough sleep, reaching out to support systems, taking a break, creating predictability. I'm getting up at this time, I'm going to bed at this time. This is how I'm going to, get my routine down. That does help manage stress. And repeating positive affirmations. Those are all important. Other managing stress, and I won't do these now, we can do these when we get into the psych module, but progressive muscle relaxation techniques where you just sit there and you just consciously think about your neck and you just relax that part of the body, and then you sit there and relax your shoulders, relax the muscle tension and work your way down the muscle groups. A lot of times you'll fall asleep, but that's a conscious relaxation method that can be useful. Imagery, deep breathing, just imagining a good place. You can put them together: progressive muscle relaxation and imagery. Meditation, yoga, tai chi, spirituality practices, different things that people will do that can be helpful. Okay. So managing a chronic disease is a lifelong process. Setting goals, getting help from others, rewarding for progress, knowing when to get help are all big parts of being a person with a chronic disease. Last thing, community resources. If you're going to help a person deal with a chronic disease, support groups, they are really good. Have any of y'all worked with a support group before? Not for yourself, but have you just know of them, been part of one, done anything with patients through one? Okay, this is good. Nobody's done anything, which is kind of interesting. But if you are dealing with patients with chronic disease, I think a really good thing to do and a smart thing to do is get a list of where places are that people can go. Every patient you see is not going to be a patient who will do it or who will even benefit from it necessarily, but a lot of people will, especially people who don't have a lot of support around them. Just to talk with other people who have the same problem is big. They find out that they aren't the only one who has trouble with that, and they teach each other stuff. I've been part of diabetes support groups, off and on for a long time. And to me, it's very gratifying because we think we control the flow of information. When they get into those groups, that group has its own life. And they become their own little group, a little family unit of sorts. They might meet once a month or every 2 weeks. And they learn different things and they just kind of talk about what's happening. And they have done better and they sustain better longer when they're in a group of people with the same issues. So part of what you want to do if you're in primary care is learn where the support groups are and know how to offer that to patients. And that's quite therapeutic, and it's actually doing something that you might think right now isn't doing very much. Well, it's big, and there's a reason that they exist and still hang around. They differ in format. Some are educational support groups, some are emotional support groups, some do both education and emotional support, and that's what I have seen most is where there's little information always coming out about their problems they share, but they also help each other do stuff. Can be run by a healthcare professional or a person with a disease, just somebody who has an interest, so it can be both ways. We had one run by a community health worker, and she would bring different professionals in to talk about different things when the group said, we want more information about feet. We want more information about snack foods, things like that. Okay. You always ask patients to try a group out. Don't tell them they have to go. It's not part of a prescription. It's a suggestion, a possibility. And I would just say go sit and do one. If you don't like that group, you will find maybe try another one. But you have to try it out and see. Some groups are more open to bring people in, and some groups kind of like the way they are, and it won't be a good fit. Another thing is publications. Most